Welcome to Civil Discourse, a podcast where participants are free to share their ideas, empathize with other perspectives, and who intend to advance to a better solution to fix a societal ill. We will focus on topics that are particularly complicated. In a time where information is from sources more opinionated than ever, our mission is to find solutions and goals to accelerate the nation's progress with cultural impunity. I'm your host, Todd Furniss. So implicit in this idea is here on the one hand, you have these law firms who are your clients who are trying to put out messages around marketing messages around who they are, what they want to do, how they're inclusive, et cetera. And they're putting that on their websites that you're designing. And you're saying, hey, wait a minute, guys, you're still failing. And here's why. And so if you really want to be successful, this is what you do. So what did you tell them?
So, and that's exactly the work I do. It is to dig deep and not use all of the language that every other law firm uses. And there is this default language that they've grown up with and that all the law firms use, and they all want to be trusted advisors, and they all focus on their client service and responsiveness, and we're very client-centered and we're very client-focused and all those things. And it's just blah, blah, blah noise to the buyer of legal services who's heard it all a million times before. And the buyers are looking for honesty. And I don't mean honesty in terms of I'm going to tell you the truth. They're looking for that emotional honesty that can cause them to feel so comfortable. And as a buyer of legal services, they want an intimate relationship with their lawyer. They want it to be filled with truth telling and with trust in the place where the advice is coming from. That it is so sort of perfect in its
well, I'd be happy with good advice and with professional competence. I'd stop there. But beyond that,
you think that's table stakes, right? That's just table stakes.
One would
think. So I'm so sorry.
It's been a lot harder to find than you'd imagine. But the issue then kind of correlates back to how do you really show up, especially as the workforce becomes more diverse. Both internally and with regard to your clients. Boards of directors are more diverse. But if they're behaving like this on a regular basis, as they have with you, and your experience and your stories, how on earth can they possibly ever retain good talent? Because as we know, the law schools are now populated with half or more than half are women. Then how on earth is it possible for them to retain to hire and retain good talent, or to retain client relationships with behind the scenes? Their conduct is so unimaginably brazen and horrific.
Well, I believe, and I haven't been inside as an employee in a law firm since 1998, and I do believe that the last 20 years there's been an enormous progress. I also think there have been tragic stories. There's one story in particular, and I'll answer your question, but one story in particular where a partner in a major global law firm in one of their United Kingdom offices was accused of sexual harassment at a holiday party. And this was, I think, 2018, 2019 timeframe. So the Me Too movement had come out. And so there was more acceptance about having those conversations, and law firms were taking those conversations. Now, if they weren't before, many of them certainly were before, but if they weren't before, we're definitely taking them seriously today. And women felt empowered to be able to actually say, okay, this guy was inappropriate at this holiday party. and he jumped off a cliff in Wales and killed himself.
Oh my gosh.
The management of the firm talked to him, and he killed him, and he literally jumped off a cliff and killed himself. And so whatever so there's this confluence for now. Think of law firm leaders and how do you manage the law firm? You now have very, very, very open conversations about mental health. There are countless articles in the American Lawyer and National Law Journal and these other publications, and certainly in the business media, about the mental health crisis among, again, it's not exclusive to lawyers, certainly high performing, high potential professionals. And then, so the delicacy around that, and then you've got the delicacy around, yeah, but this guy was inappropriate to me, and them managing those conversations. So my heart goes out to the management of that law firm because it was awful. I mean, both stories were awful, and so what law firm leaders today in assessing talent, what we are seeing is this enormous contribution, enormous investment in financial and certainly in terms of other resources in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the intentions are all great, I think, by and large. What's happening is that the only way for them to feel like they're making progress is by measuring numbers. Okay, they count faces, female faces, male faces, LGBTQ faces, people of color, people with disabilities, all those diverse faces, and they count them and they say, well, our numbers this year are better than last year. So what are you doing? But you're highlighting the differences, and all of those, and women, and all the women lawyers. I just had this conversation with a client of mine. They don't want to be viewed as women lawyers. They just want to be viewed as lawyers. And so the DEI investments coming from the top down, and that's a very big message. Our commitment is from the top down. Well, I think it has to be from the bottom up, where the storytelling can happen. And a woman who felt other, I mean, by anyone's standards, I don't look, other than the fact that I was a woman in business and in a largely white male dominated business 35 years ago. So that made me diverse back then, but by today I'm not diverse in the least. But I still felt other or like a misfit my entire life. Very similarly to these people that we're now counting, and the stories, their origin stories, where they came from, what has hurt them in their lifetimes. Those are the stories that to feel heard and to feel a part of an organization. I believe those are the stories that have to be told. And that's where the acceptance, they will feel accepted if they feel they are accepted for who they really are, as opposed to being a number, a minority face, and I think and that they are invited in not because they are a diverse person, but the inclusion is around, I get you. I get who you are now. Thank you for sharing that story.